Hello all, welcome to NBreason, the daily current affairs program by Team Enlight. Today we'll be discussing certain topics in news. The first one is stubble burning, important for prelims and mains. We'll see what are the causes of stubble burning, effects and some measures to address them. The second topic for today is National Monetization Pipeline, important for prelims and mains. We'll also see what is the significance of asset monetization in India. The third topic today is ban on terror outfits, important for mains. We'll see what are the threats posed by them and some measures to address this. The fourth and fifth topics for today are important for prelims and they are exercise Malabar, and the last topic is about polio disease. So let's move to the first one. The first topic for today is stubble burning. In today's newspaper, there was an article about the Commission for Air Quality Management in New Delhi asking the states to adopt ISRO protocol to track stubble burning. So ISRO protocol basically involves use of remote sensing to identify stubble burning and forest fire affected regions caused by stubble burning so that states can easily tackle this menace. So in this context, let's see what is stubble burning. Stubble burning is the practice of burning crop stubble or residue after harvest, and it is mainly practiced in rice wheat cropping regions of Punjab and Haryana. Now, what are the reasons for stubble burning? One reason is that the sowing seasons of Kharif and Rabi are close to each other, so farmers resort to burning paddy stubble so that wheat can be sown timely. The second reason is that even after using mechanical harvesters, minute stubble will remain in the field, so farmers resort to burning process. And they are less aware about the after effects of stubble burning and resort to stubble burning because it's an easy practice. And it is said that it will destroy pests. So farmers justify the stubble burning practice due to the following reasons. Now let's see what are the effects of stubble burning. One major effect is that it affects visibility due to the large amount of fumes generated, and it's also a major contributor of air pollution in National Capital Region and heightens smog in winter. It also causes respiratory disorders and affects soil fertility, as burning will affect the nutrient availability in soil. And in the long term, it increases atmospheric temperature and contributes to global warming and climate change. Let's see what are the measures to address stubble burning. One solution to stubble burning menace is diversion of stubble to biomass power plants for biofuel generation as envisaged under National Biofuel Policy 2018. And also another measure is to adopt happy seeder technology, which are machines efficient enough to remove stubble and also the graded response action plan adopted to control air pollution also deals with addressing stubble burning. Coming to the farm specific angle, farmer cooperatives or self-help groups can engage in situ crop residue management, wherein they can collaborate together to remove crop stubble and avoid burning them. And also the National Green Tribunal as a restraint measure has fixed penalties for stubble burning practice. As a long-term measure, it's important to adopt crop diversification and shift from the conventional rice wheat pattern with close sowing seasons so that stubble burning can be reduced, and instead millets and horticultural crops such as vegetables and fruits can be promoted. And coming to mains, this comes under GS3 paper and could be asked under crops and cropping patterns in different parts of the country, agricultural produce and issues associated. So this is all about the first one. Let's move to the second topic, which is National Monetization Pipeline. Today, the finance minister will launch the national monetization pipeline. So this is basically a disinvestment process of the government of India, and this national monetization pipeline is a roadmap for this disinvestment process. So the government basically has assets worth rupees 6 trillion in the form of companies or other means. So government plans to monetize these assets, and national monetization pipeline will serve as a roadmap for this process. So this has been created to list out the sender's infrastructure assets which will be sold over the next 4 years. So it's a 4-year pipeline of the sender to monetize brownfield infrastructure assets across different sectors such as roads, railways, aviation, power, oil and gas and warehousing. And this will serve as a medium-term roadmap for sender's asset monetization initiative. And they have also set up a monetization dashboard so that investors can track the assets available for sale from the government side. Now, what is the importance of asset monetization? One importance is that it will unlock new sources of revenue for the government from unutilized or underutilized public assets, according to Department for Investment and Public Asset Management. And this will also serve as a funding initiative come augmenting and maintenance measure for existing infrastructure in the country, and will also serve as a financing avenue for new infrastructure creation. More details about this monetization pipeline will be released by the Finance Ministry after the launch of this program. Coming to mains, this also comes under GS3 paper and could be specifically asked under the infrastructure topic about energy, ports, roads, airports, railways, and certain investment models. Let's move to the next one. Next topic is about ban on terror outfits, important for mains. Today in news, there was an article about the government considering ban on the Hurriyat conference in Jammu and Kashmir, suspected of terror links. So in this light, we can note that the government had earlier banned the Jamaat-e-Islami, a social-religious organization in Jammu and Kashmir, already in 2019. And these organizations are banned by the Ministry of Home Affairs under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA 1967. Certain other outfits which are banned under UAPA include the LTTE, the Liberation of Tamil Tigers of Elam, the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, etc. And with a ban imposed on such outfits, it will allow the security agencies in arresting the leaders of these outfits. Now let's see what are the threats posed by these organizations with terror linkage. One major threat is that it serves as a source of support for larger terror organizations based in Pakistan, such as the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, etc. And these organizations serve as over-the-ground supporters for terror-related activities and cause unrest in the Kashmir Valley. And they also involved in radicalization of youth for recruitment to terror groups through various platforms, especially social media. They also provide logistic support, such as smuggling weapons and cash for terror. And apart from these, the radicalized youth may pose threat to the nation in the form of lone wolf attack, wherein attacks will be perpetuated individually. So this is the issue that could be posed by the organizations with terror linkages. Now let's see what are some measures to address this. One major measure is about awareness generation and involving de-radicalization measures with the help of religious leaders, and we can also address this through intelligence support from institutions such as the National Investigation Agency, Intelligence Bureau, and the RAW of the Government of India. And apart from that, we also have legislative measures such as the UAPA 2019, wherein the government can declare even individuals as terrorists. Earlier, organizations could be designated as terrorist organizations under UAPA. And other legislative measures are about Arms Act, which are imposed for illegal possession of arms and weapons, and for smuggling cash, Prevention of Money Laundering Act is there to address the menace. And as a long-term measure, certain programs by armed forces such as Operation Sadbhavana, which is a goodwill initiative to connect to the Kashmir youth and avoid unrest in the Kashmir Valley, and also certain skilling measures can be adopted to prevent youth from joining terror outfits. Now coming to mains, syllabus linkage, this also comes under GS3, specifically under linkages between development and spread of extremism, role of external state and non-state actors in creating challenges to internal security. So this is all about this topic. Let's move to the next one. It's exercise Malabar, important for prelims. So the exercise Malabar, which is a naval exercise, is set to begin from August 26. So we'll see what is exercise Malabar. It is a trilateral naval exercise conducted jointly by US, Japan and India, and it began in 1992 as a bilateral exercise between India and US, and it expanded into a trilateral after the inclusion of Japan in 2015 permanently. And also Australia is a participant of exercise Malabar since last year. So this marks the membership of all quadrilateral nations, Quad nations, in exercise Malabar. Coming to the significance of exercise Malabar, it will improve naval coordination in the Indo-Pacific region and also improve the significance of Quad grouping in the region, since all Quad members are involved, and it will allow mutual capacity building of forces amidst global geopolitical issues such as Chinese naval presence in Indian Ocean and South China Sea. So this is all about exercise Malabar. Let's move to the next topic, which is about poliomyelitis or the polio disease, important for prelims. In today's news, there was this article that the government will provide polio vaccines to Afghan returnees since polio is still prevalent in regions of Afghanistan and Pakistan. Now let's see what is polio disease. It is a crippling disease that affects the nerve growth and it will leave the person infected with polio virus permanently handicapped. And this is a viral disease caused by the polio virus and mostly affects young children below the age of 5. And this virus commonly spreads through fecal oral route, contaminated food, etc. And coming to India's status, India was certified polio free by the WHO in 2014. And two types of vaccines are available for polio, which is the oral polio vaccine OPV and injectable polio vaccine IPV. Injectable polio vaccine IPV is a part of India's universal immunization program. Another important topic with respect to polio disease is vaccine-derived polio virus, which is a threat and a recent menace with respect to global eradication of polio. So let's see what is vaccine-derived polio virus. This oral polio vaccine OPV, which is being provided, contains an attenuated or weakened vaccine virus which will activate the immune response in the body. So when oral polio drops are provided, the vaccine virus are excreted later by the immunized child and could cause polio disease in some cases. So the excreted virus will remain in the environment, and in conditions of inadequate sanitation, this excreted virus can spread to the immediate community and cause vaccine-derived polio virus. So this remains a challenge for eradication of polio in the world, and it could be asked for your prelims also. This is all about today's news analysis. Thank you.